Welcome to this trade breakdown where we'll break down a short that I took yesterday on Monday the 17th of August during the AM session. So before we jump into the charts, we will first take a look at the trade and the trade execution together, and then we will go over the trade. So right here you can see that I've entered the short. Right there I went short. We can see how price first of all hovered around the entry area until when? Until the PM session, so 11:30 opened up. And what you will see now is that markets will continue distributing because the SMR is already in, meaning that this open should not manipulate higher, it should distribute lower. We can see that I took a partial right there because we have a possible 90-minute SMT with ES. And notice this set of imbalances that I marked out, which is where? Through previous 30-minute low. Very important. So see how price keep rejecting the midnight open as well as these imbalances, which is a good sign. And here you can see, if we pause for a second, what we can see right here is that I took a partial right here, which now looking back at it, I think it was very unnecessary and too aggressive. I should not have done this because what you see me do just a second later is pyramid back again, trailing my stop to this high. And we see how markets keeps rejecting 9:30 open as well as this imbalance that I've marked out beautifully. And here I will pyramid soon again, right there. You can see that I've pyramided again, stop loss above this high, which is the previous 10-minute high that has 10-minute SMT, should never be reached if indeed we are going lower. And here my internet connection was a bit bad, so that is why it looks pretty messy right here, as you can see. And here from 1 PM onwards, you can see it's very slow delivery, very, very slow. I've been in the trade for almost 2 hours at this point. And right here at 1 PM, the market will clear up and start distributing again. You can see how the time cycles are utilized to distribute. In this case, since the high is already in, so it does not need to manipulate. And that is the trade. And if we just here, you can see the accounts. Let's just see when we close the position. We can't see that there. But here you will see on the screen now the actual trade and the results on my 5 accounts. So we made roughly 3.2k in total, 650 on each account. So let's now go over the charts and what we can see. And on the left we have NQ, on the right we have ES. The first thing we see is what? The market opens up, well, the new week opens right here on Sunday with a new week opening gap. You can mark out the same gap on ES right there. And what we see is that the market just goes higher, okay? We see open high taking place for the beginning of Monday, for the beginning of the week. At this level, we see something very interesting taking place. We see that NQ takes out Friday high, but also the previous week's high. And when we look at ES on the same time frame, on the same horizon, ES never reaches the previous week high. This means that we have a possible SMT with the weekly high. Now, what confirms this SMT? Well, we can look at it in 2 different ways. First of all, we know that CST confirms SMT, meaning that until we get CST lower, we don't yet know if this is SMT or just ES, in this case, lagging behind. So what we do is the following. We mark out where is our CST line. And on NQ, on this perspective, on this time frame, it's right there, okay? When we pay attention to something else, when we go even narrower, how I looked at it and what confirmed the following to me was I looked at it this way. We see a high, we see a low. We see a high, we see a low, and we see a higher high. Meaning that if we zoom into this delivery right here, we have a smaller CST taking place right there. Meaning, let me just mark it out so we can see it properly. The moment both markets made CST, well, when NQ made CST there, that to me said, okay, we're at least drawing towards the previous day low, which is obviously the Friday low. So if we change this to sell side, at least drawing to this low. What we can see is that ES has already taken out the low of Friday. So we have a daily SMT taking place right here. Now, what rule did we just discuss? We talked about when does this actually become SMT rather than, in this case, NQ lagging behind to the downside. It comes down to CST, meaning for us to say, okay, we indeed have daily SMT on this time frame, we would have to wait for ES to take out this high and NQ to take out this high to tell us, okay, we indeed have SMT on the lows and we are drawing higher. But until this and until that takes place, we are in a bigger purge and revert on the weekly perspective. Because we purged previous week high with SMT, we got CST, so that objectively tells me, until I'm proven otherwise, until I see something else, this is the move. This is what's gonna happen. It's a big move, but it's because it's a weekly perspective. It's a weekly purge and revert. This is the move we are in. Same goes for ES, right there. So what this tells me is that, yes, we do have the possible daily SMT on the lows, which is currently just a cracking correlation. It's just NQ lagging behind, which is indeed not ideal. We don't want to see it in the best of worlds, but we have it right now and we have to adapt to it. So what do we do? Well, what this tells me is on the hourly, we have a drawn liquidity, which is all the way to previous week low. We know that we now have switched from buy program here to sell program. We can see that we have rejected the previous week high. If we were indeed bullish, we should have treated it as support and we would continue higher. We did not, meaning we are indeed bearish. Okay, amazing. What now? What does this mean? Well, this means that we are in an environment that every retracement higher can be sold because we anticipate it to just be a retracement to continue lower. Okay, so what do we see taking place right here? We keep playing price, and right here we see that ES is going lower, NQ standing rather still. But my eyes immediately are drawn to this imbalance. And I want you to pay attention to what can you see taking place inside this imbalance. It's a crucial level, and I'm always talking about specific imbalances, the ones that form through time cycles. Here you see previous week high, here you see an imbalance forming through previous week high, which is a crucial level for me to monitor. So the same goes here. We can see previous day low SMT on ES, and now I deleted the new week opening gap so it doesn't get too choppy on the chart, meaning that I anticipate that we could, or I don't anticipate, I would pay attention to what would happen inside this level if we reach it, right? At this current stage, I have no interest in price. If you drop into the 1 minute, and by the way, I was not on the 1 minute chart at this time, but if we do take a look at it, to me and to my eyes, it's a complete mess. They're rather out of sync. ES draws lower, NQ is kind of just chopping around. It's just a mess. Hence why I'm still on the 60 minutes, so on the hourly chart, or sometimes I'm switching to the 15 just to monitor what happens on that time frame as well. Because what we see now is where it gets interesting. We see now that the markets are, let's see, going lower again. But right here, we see that ES is retracing back into, okay, let's fix this, into the previous day low. So now that was actually bad of me. I marked out an imbalance that wasn't complete. Rather, what we do is pay attention to the whole delivery or the candle we can do of previous day low. Because we know that if we are indeed bearish, what will happen is this whole candle, not actually the candle, but the level around previous day low will be treated as resistance on price to continue lower, rather than what we did on the weekly here, reject it to reverse from it. So this is what I'm paying attention to on ES. Here is what I'm paying attention to on NQ. So we keep playing price, and still we do not have a we do not yet have anything for me to look at, because I want to see a proper manipulation higher, so retracement, which we will see taking place on the next candle. So from here onwards, if we go into the 15, here we will see a retracement starting to take place. And what you can see is I've also marked out premium versus discount. If we go back to the hourly, because what in an ideal world we want to see is we want to see expansion, retracement back to minimum, in this case premium, so minimum EQ. And what I also see line up at that level is obviously we have this imbalance, which is the first thing I'm looking at, previous week high as well. So I see that this is a possible scenario. So if we go back to the 15 right here, let's play price right there. Now I'm immediately like, okay, now it's interesting. If we go back to the hourly and look how it looks right here, things starts to look interesting. We have officially had the retracement into where? Into the area I was monitoring price, into the previous week high, and into the imbalance that formed through it. So we have to, for my idea to play out, because remember when we are in a bigger purge and revert, so purge previous week high, revert to previous week low. First target is a purge of Friday high, revert to Friday low. That is the minimum that I was anticipating. Maybe not for today, so obviously for this trade, but for the first target to reach. So what we see then is right here, we have now officially reached my point of interest that I was eyeing, meaning I drop into the 1 minute chart. And here it starts to get interesting, because what can we see right here? We do see a 30-minute SMT on the lows, yes, but it's done its job now. We have reached 30-minute high, so you can kind of exclude or forget about it. It's done its job, and we know that the overall picture should be drawing lower, meaning that this was just to set up a retracement higher. Something for you to pay attention to. What I'm immediately looking at is the following. Right here, we can see what? NQ has purged previous cycle high, 8:30 to 10 a.m. If we look at the same high on ES, we see that this is 8:30 to 10. And ES never reaches the high and is rather far from it, right? On top of that, I see that NQ has taken out obviously its previous 30-minute high, whilst at the same time ES is still, and let me just delete this SMT indicator, it gets a bit too messy I feel like that. Whilst of course we see that this is the same level on ES, on NQ. This is the previous 30-minute high, or it's actually right there, I think. It takes it out whilst ES has not. So we have a double SMT right here. So what I'm looking at is, okay, what is happening at this level? We are inside the hourly imbalance. Here is previous week high. You can make it a bit thicker. And here I'm looking at, okay, first of all, for an entry, because this is everything I need. We are in the point of interest. We see SMT, and we see also internal SMT, because when is the high on NQ formed? It's formed at 11:04. When is the high formed, or current high formed on NQ? It's formed at 11:07. So we see that we have an even new internal SMT. We have the external SMT, which is with this high, and we have, well, also the 30-minute SMT, but we also have internal SMT right here. This is all we need. The final thing in the process, in the protocol that I need to have for me to take a trade is CST. Why? Because CST validates, first of all, the SMTs, which we have talked about already, but more importantly, CST confirms that we indeed switch from bullish order flow, because right now we are clearly bullish on the 1 minute, into bearish order flow. So then the question comes, okay, as you could see, I entered on the 15 seconds. And the reason for that is because at this stage, I cannot see expansion retracements on the 1 minute chart. I cannot see it. Might be my eyes, but I cannot see expansions retracements. Hence, why for me to determine where is CST, I have no clue. Or, yeah, well, it's all the way down here. And if price reaches this level, I have no trade to take because I want to enter up here. So this tells me, okay, you need to drop into the 15 seconds to pay attention to what happens on price. What I'm immediately looking at is, okay, currently, remember, price is printing live. Currently, we see a clean, perfect rejection of previous week high. That is also a very good sign when that happens. Right here, I'm looking at this previous high, the most previous higher low before the higher high. So higher low, higher high. This is currently the CST line for me, telling me, okay, we have indeed switched from bullish to bearish and I can take a trade. I'm paying attention to this low on ES as well, because it's obviously the same low, but technically, since we never made a higher high, this is also the low to pay attention to. But let's keep playing price. We know that the only thing we need to see is what? We need to see CST. And here I want you to pay attention to something. What happens here, and this is a creation of a new imbalance, which is a sign that you will usually see, because bearish order flow has stepped in, and what we will see is that we will create premium arrays, and they will be functioning as resistance on price at the same time as the discount arrays that we have on the left side will be disrespected, inverted, treated as resistance on price. So this is the first sign to me that, okay, great, because we see the exact same happening on ES right there. See an imbalance getting created, premium array, retrace back into it, boom, rejection. That is a great sign. The only thing I'm paying attention to now is this low for me to confirm CST. You could definitely be more aggressive, say the high is already in, you can enter, boom. Personally, I prefer to wait for this case. So what we see right there is that the market has taken out this low. And I want to enter on the next retracement. And what do we see here happening at this at this low? We form an imbalance through it. So the moment we retrace back into it, boom, I make my entry somewhere right here, stop loss above there, above the SMR, because we know that if this is indeed the SMR, if my analysis is right, we will never ever reach this low. First target is right here, and then I was holding a runner for continuation, since I was thinking we were going possibly to previous day low if we were getting over bearish, or if we would just tank lower. So now I'm officially in the trade, and we can see that it's roughly a 4.5 risk to reward, which is, I would say pretty good. It's decent. And we keep playing price, because what we will see taking place now is that the market will just chop around. Okay, this is not ideal. Personally, I think when I'm in a trade, I want to see price just rip when I enter. But what we see, which is a good sign, is that ES keeps making new highs right here. So yes, it's taken out the previous 30-minute SMT, but it's making now 10-minute SMT on the highs. Meaning as long as NQ does not take out this high, I know one thing. I know that 11:30, which is the new cycle that opens up, will do one thing. It will just distribute. So this will just be time distortion. Price will just chop around. As long as NQ doesn't take out the high, obviously then I would be taken out of the trade. But that tells me that, okay, we're just creating new SMT for the new time cycle to distribute, which is exactly what we will see. We see price going lower and higher right here, but here something happens. Boom. We see 11:30 coming along and just distributing. And from here onwards, what we will see is that the market just shoots lower. We see that we open with a small SMT, which is also a sign that we like to see. We see the following. So right there, we can see, here you can see the wick on ES. You can see that NQ never takes that high out. Boom. Also a good sign, showing again distribution lower. Now we are officially in the trade. Stop loss is, I think I trailed it somewhere here to these highs because here we have the SMT. But what I want us to now do is if we go back and look, where did I enter my, where did I partial, where did I pyramid, because that is also important. And I want to discuss, well, first of all, my first pyramid is right here. I think it's at around 1140. Let's take a look. And then I took another partial right here. Oh, sorry, I mean partial. I think I said pyramid. Again, I partial right here. I think it was a bad partial, actually. Looking back at it, too stressful maybe. Should not have partial there. Should have kept my composure because there was nothing telling me that I should have actually partial. And then I pyramided twice, once there and once there again. So let's now take a look. Right here, nothing is telling me to do anything. Right now, price is moving exactly like I'm anticipating. I'm looking at this imbalance because, right there. Why? Because I see price has kept bouncing off this level. So this has to be an important level to monitor. This is an algorithmic level, and this is how I look at imbalances. The ones that form through time cycles and where price has clearly bounced multiple times in advance. That is when I mark out imbalances. Otherwise, I don't pay attention to them. And then what we see taking place right here is that the market just continues to rip lower. Here I'm marking out the previous 30-minute low, and by the way, here is where I took my partial, right here on this candle at 1140. Because what we see taking place is that ES has taken out the previous cycle low. So we have a possible 90-minute cycle SMT. It's not SMT currently, it's just that NQ is lagging behind. But we know that we have the possible daily SMT as well, meaning that we could see a retracement taking place. It's very logical that that could take place. So I take a partial and I monitor what happens to price. My stop loss is moved to break even, and here I'm paying attention to this imbalance. You could also mark out this. Why? Because they formed through previous 30-minute low. Important to keep an eye on what happens right there. And we see price continuing to move. Nothing really for me to do, act on. So my stop is still at break even, somewhere right here, and we keep playing. Here is where I took the other partial, and looking back at it again, I don't like it. I should not have taken that partial, but I did it, and it is what it is. So the reason I took it, how I was looking at it live, is because now we open up at 12, another 30-minute cycle, and we see this taking place. A new cracking correlation on the lows, which was, now we have 30, we have 90, and we even have, we have 30, we have session, so we have these two would make session SMT, and we have the day. So I was like, okay, that is not something I like to see. But the thing is, like, should I have partial? No, I don't think so. I think it's too emotional partial, I think, looking back at it, my own reflections. Because the thing is, like, if we were in fact gonna reverse higher, session plus daily SMT is enough. Price would have just gone higher. So the fact that NQ keeps rejecting these areas, ES keeps rejecting these areas, and we keep going lower, tells you that, okay, most likely lower prices is next, and we're not going higher, even though we have these cracking correlations on the lows. That is how I should have looked at it. How I looked at it a few minutes later, where you see me partial, where you see me pyramid, because right here I pyramid again. I think on this high, on this candle, I think, or right here, because what we see is that ES keeps making daily 10-minute SMT. Now I don't have the 10-minute cycle. Let's put them on. There we go. We can see that we now have 10-minute SMT with this high, which should, if we're bearish, again, always if we are and continue to stay bearish, this high will never be reached. We will see a rejection taking place, and we keep rejecting this previous 30-minute low, which again we can mark out, which is a good sign. I like what I'm seeing. So I pyramided again. Let's take a look. Where did I pyramid the final time? Yeah, right there, once we continued lower. So let's keep playing price. Right here, I pyramid again. Why? Because we get an even newer 10-minute SMT right there. Do you see it? ES takes out the high at 12.21. And NQ never takes out the high of, let's delete these, it's a bit choppy now. NQ never takes out the 12.16 high, which is again a new SMT. So what I do is the moment we go below these lows, I pyramid again. Boom, look at this imbalance. And I just enter. And what we see taking place from here, I think is price just starts to go lower, which is beautifully. So at this time, my stop loss is right here as well. We go lower. And at 1, we will see the market just going right in our favor, right there. And I had one runner, as you could see in the video. I think I closed the runner. I had to leave at around, what was it, like 1, somewhere here. I closed the full position because I had to leave. But this is the trade. This is how I was looking at it live. The entry, the logic behind everything. I hope you could take some things away from it, because this is how I'm looking at it live. It's not too much more difficult than this. It's very simple, very straightforward, very objective. It's always like, if this happens, then that. If this doesn't happen, well, then that should happen. That is the whole thought process every single day. And what we can see taking place from here is, if we leave the replays, we have indeed reached the previous day low, which I was monitoring. We did it after the after the close of the market, so there wouldn't have been a chance for me to hold the runner all the way here. But we can see that the analysis played out, and this was a good move. And the final thing I want to leave you with, guys, is the following. I want to show you how this month has looked for me. We are indeed at August. So I want to show you how this month has looked for me. I've only taken 4 trades, 2 break-even days. 1, I would consider this break-even. It's a very small win. And then we have the trade from yesterday, the 17th. That's it. You don't need more, guys. It's all about becoming an expert at what you do, and you will get the exact results you desire and want. That's it. You don't need more. You don't need to make it more advanced for yourself. Because with this pace, like, you know exactly what trades you're taking, and you can chill. Here, when you know there's nothing to take, you leave the chart within 5-10 minutes. That's the beauty of it. So again, I hope you learned something from this breakdown. You could take at least something away from it. That's a win. That is whatever. That's the only thing I want. The only thing I'm happy to hear. And see you in the next video.